sketching quadratics. Okay, so for the curve y equals x squared minus 3x plus 2, in order to sketch it, we need to know certain information. The first piece of information is where the curve cuts each of our axes. So looking at the y-axis first, if you think about any curve crossing the y-axis, okay, so crossing the y-axis here, the x-coordinate of that point will always be 0. So because of that, we're going to set x equals to 0 in our equation. So if x is equal to 0, we have 0 squared minus 3 times 0 plus the 2. So 0 squared being 0, 3 times 0 being 0, so 0 minus 0 plus the 2 gives us an answer of 2. So we have an x-coordinate of 0, a y-coordinate of 2, and I know the curve crosses the axes then, the y-axis at 0, 2. Okay, so the x-axis this time, well again going back to our sketch, we can see here that where it crosses the x-axis in this case twice, and although some quadratics may not touch the x-axis at all and some may only touch it once. Okay, so let's have a look and see how many times this one is going to cross the x-axis. So at our points here, the y-coordinate of each of those points will be 0. So again, letting y equal 0 in our equation. So we'll end up with the quadratic here equals 0. And we've looked in previous sections in this module how to factorise or how to solve a quadratic equation. So in this case, x squared minus 3x plus 2 is easily factorised. We're looking for two numbers that multiply to give 2, add to give minus 3. It has to be minus 2 and minus 1. So we end up with x minus 2 upon x minus 1, again equals 0. So either the x minus 2 is equal to 0, or the x minus 1 is equal to 0, or in fact both of them could be equal to 0. So for x minus 2 to equal 0, x must be 2, and for x minus 1 to equal 0, x must be 1. So we end up with 2 points. This curve is going to cross the x-axis twice. X equals 2, y coordinate 0, so 2, 0. X coordinate 1, so 1, 0 is our second point. So we've now found where it's going to cross both axes. Next thing we need to find out is, does it have any maximum or minimum points? And to do this, if you remember back, we're going to complete the square. So x squared minus 3x plus 2, let's complete the square on that. So taking half of the 3, so we have x minus 3 over 2 all squared, and then subtracting the minus 3 over 2 squared, so giving us 9 over 4, and then adding on this 2. But to make life easier for ourselves, we're going to write 2 as 8 over 4, giving it the same denominator as the 9 over 4, which makes it much easier to calculate. Okay, so looking at this then, we've got minus 9 over 4 plus 8 over 4 gives us minus 1 over 4, minus a quarter, and we end up with x minus 3 over 2 all squared minus a quarter. And we know because our squared bracket here is positive, we've got a minimum turning point, and that's going to happen when x minus 3 over 2 is equal to 0. So x is going to be 3 over 2, and that gives us our x coordinate. Here we've got our y coordinate of minus a quarter, so our minimum turning point is going to happen at 3 over 2 minus a quarter. And we now have enough information to sketch our curve, and I know we've got it crossing the x-axis at 1, 0 and 2, 0. It crosses the y-axis at 0, 2. So if you mark each of those 3 points first, I also know I have a minimum turning point at 3 over 2 minus a quarter. I know it's a positive quadratic, so it will be that U shape anyway, and we just sketch the curve.